idea of getting to a certain place within where you are at that moment and finding that you think there's maybe a better way to do it, that you've learned a lot, but then there's a place that I think if we can do this a little differently, that kept you kind of moving and sort of both moving up to place, but also moving to new labels and moving to new opportunities.
That wasn't always my choice.
But you start off at independent record labels,
yes.
which I would think has certainly come back to.
One of the things that has been such a blessing for us is I was involved with Mary Tyler Moore when she had a label here in the mid-'80s. That was Holly Dunn and Judy Rodman and Skylar No Block and Overstreet. And it was just myself and a very dear friend of mine, Bruce Schindler, who was the head of promotion. I was his assistant. And we were taking on the big guys, and we were having #1 records. And we really learned how to maximize any asset that we could get our hands on, which were not many. But it was great being a young promotion person to go in and figure out how to win and not have all the assets of a major label. So I went from Mary Tyler Moore. I had my own independent company in 1989 and 90. And during that time, I got a reputation for working the more edgier things of the time. Marty Stewart, Dwight Yoakam, the Kentucky Headhunters, Kelly Willis. And I really focused on what I thought was kind of the cooler edge of country. And because of that, Tony Brown and Bruce Hinton took notice at MCA, and I was hired in 1991 at MCA.
Right. So it was 91 when you moved over there.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking that MTM and that idea that you could, work at a small label, sort of a David and Goliath situation.
Absolutely.
Must have come back to you in starting Big Machine,
Look at that. There's some hair too, right? It stayed with me for a while. What a great team. That was the label of the decade right there.
You went to MCA at a really time that they were just exploding, and then became part of that sort of explosive growth that they had. And
yeah.
I think that in the 90s they were.
It was really interesting because at that point RCA was the label, and they had dominated throughout the 80s with the Judds in Alabama and hit after hit. And walking into MCA, they had been predominantly the #2 label, and they were acting like it. And I walked in there and I said, this toolbox over in the corner, I opened it and I saw some wrenches in there. Can I use those? And they're like, yeah, go ahead. I'm like, watch. And we kicked their ass, and we just went absolutely crazy. And nobody could touch us, and I don't think they had a culture of winning at that point. They were great executives, and you had George Strait, you had Reba McEntire, we were breaking Vince Gill, we were breaking Trisha Yearwood. We had a gold or platinum breakthrough every year, and it just needed a spark. And I think I brought that spark into that program and brought a higher level of dedication and commitment to winning. And man, did we win. We had just such a wonderful run at MCA.
They've been really great record makers,
Yeah.
but they weren't always
Some
top
of
of
the
the charts.
best records in country music history.
Right, but in the 90s they really sort of kicked it in gear as far as making those records also be really successful. So what was it? I think